On behalf of TiE Chennai, I welcome Mr. Venkatarangan Thirumalai, founder, tech expert, honorary Microsoft Region Director, and our charter member with over 25 years of experience in software development. He has started tech companies, promoted digital progress in Tamil, and always prioritized users. He is also an author who shares his insight on venkatarangan.com. I now request Mr. Venkatarangan to take over this session. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So let's try to see basics. Let's try to go around the space. We can make it interactive, but I reserve the right to answer a question or not answer a question. If a question I don't know the answer, I'll say we'll skip. So that's the ground rules. So we'll have a fun time. And that's not actor Siddharth, if you're wondering. It's my photograph that I gave it to the latest Chat GPT 4.0 and said, can you create a caricature on what mid-European style is what I gave as a prompt, and this is what I got. So my wife immediately seeing said, that's actor Siddharth, so I'll get it out of the way. You shouldn't be seeing Siddharth there, you should see me there. Okay. This is my book, and I wrote for a magazine called Madras Paper for 52 weeks on simplifying how you can use mobile applications and your PCs, right from how do you preserve your photographs for posterity, how do you archival your old books that you have got in your house, to what is that you should do when you buy a new phone, to sell a new phone, and all those simple technology topics. I took those simple issues because that is what is very challenging. You can explain how an AI model transformation works, but if you go and try to explain to your father or mother how does a WhatsApp forward works, that was the challenge. And I had to do it in 500 words in Tamil. That led me on to learn a lot of things. It was a real fun exercise for me. One of the chapters is called, do you know how to search in Google? Google il theda theriyuma. How many of you speak Tamil? Wow, that's good. So I even gave a talk on Gen AI for Kanitamil conference a couple of months back in Tamil. So that's my book. It's released. It's available in Amazon. So that's the QR code for that. If you want to buy, I'll really appreciate it. It's a very simple book. If you're into technology, you will find something new. Even this chapter, you'll hopefully find something new on how to search in Google. So each chapter is like that. So let's get that away. Now, how many of you are founders here? Founders of startups, founders of companies? Okay. How many of you are developers? As a job, you may be a founder, a developer, only a developer. Okay. Any other profession I'm missing? Any accountants, lawyers? Chartered accountant, fantastic. Any lawyers? Oh, TiE should be having more lawyers. I have 5 lawyers in my family, so actually 4 sister-in-laws were all lawyers. So it's my word against them in my house. So the reason is generative AI, for example, the first question when we talk about it, is it going to take your job? It is going to take your job. If all you're doing is very simple processing, it's going to take your job. And we'll see why it is. What do I mean by simple thing? If all you're doing is summarizing documents and writing in large companies, even in Microsoft and Google, I know somebody who climbed up all the way in Microsoft India many years back. He was like a technology assistant to the MD those days. And that actually is a glorified way of saying, I'm doing your PowerPoints for you. I'm talking 20 years back. Okay. And that was a tough job. I'm not demeaning the job in any particular way, because Microsoft had a whole set of products. This MD is actually going to manage probably 1,000 products, whatever it is. Microsoft, Google, you can change the company. The MD can't be versatile on all these products. So he or she has to talk and somebody has to prepare them. That's where you actually learn. One of the jobs in Microsoft US always coveted was being the technology assistant to Bill Gates when he was running the company. So is that all you're doing? Even that kind of very sophisticated Gen AI can do that for you. If you're writing reports, if you're consolidating, summarizing, rewriting, if you're a copy editor, not value adding, somebody else is writing, you're just copy editing it, your job is going to go away for sure. There's no doubts about it. It's a matter of when, or your company is just nice, just retaining them. Does it mean Gen AI is going to do everything for you? I don't think so, or AI for that matter. I'm a very optimist on human race. We've survived more things. I don't think so. Gen AI or AI for that matter is there where it can run everything autonomous by itself. We are not there. All of us have seen. I'm a big science fiction fan. We are all watching science fiction and reading it and imagining computers are going to be that. It's not that. You run your phone for about 2 months without rebooting, and you come and tell me computers will run the entire world. I'll probably believe it. We are not there yet at all by any stretch of imagination. Today, these things are fantastic when it is a repetitive job, when there's a lot of data to consolidate more than what we can. These tools are actually fantastic. It is going to definitely improve your productivity. A lot of our jobs are going to change. I'm not saying it's not going to have a big impact. It is going to have a big impact, but it is not going to run the world. That is definitely, at least not in the people's, in this audience lifetime. No computers, no AGI, whatever they call it. Big tech wants to have the next big thing they can hype and do it. I'm not saying it in a small way. These technology are fantastic, but they are not yet there where we need to start worrying about them. Governments are going to be worried about them. Deepfake is a real issue, and all those issues which you are familiar are certainly going to be there, but then they are not yet there. Now, what is the one reason why Gen AI is going to, every technology, whether it is automation or MS Word, when it came, it replaced a lot of typists, so on and so forth. But why is generative AI going to be very disruptive in terms of work? There is one reason why it is going to be very different from the other AI technologies or machine learning technologies we have seen. We have had machine learning for that matter in Google spam filter for almost 15 years, 20 years. And everything we are doing from Swiggy ordering to Netflix movie watching is all machine learning happening at the back end. It's all so used to it, and our entire world is, even the internet is running because there are machine learning models which are keeping the internet packets flowing and all that. But why is Gen AI going to be disruptive in the workforce? Or it is already disruptive? Any guesses? There's one single reason for that. And it's a very simple reason. Okay. Anything else?
Able to comprehend as close as possible.
Okay, able to comprehend close to human. Somewhere I heard it generates. Yes, can you elaborate? Exactly. It creates content which is not there yet. All the other systems, we had database systems when we learned computer science, is to how accurately pick up something. And database queries, if it makes up data, where the record is not there, or it says there is a record and it's actually not there, it's not going to be right. But this is the first technology where it is actually generating data which is not, no human, or it doesn't exist at all. It just creates data. That's one of the main reasons why generative AI is going to replace a lot of work. And how do we do work? This is an interesting thing. This paper came up in March, and you can search for it in RXIV. If you're in a Facebook argument, which I'm sure all of us are, and I don't see my son or anybody here, so there are, let's say there are many baby boomers, boomer uncles here. So, but we are on Facebook. So Facebook arguments. If you're going to have a Facebook argument, it is proven in this paper that you should let a ChatGPT run the argument rather than you spend your time. Because for you to win the argument, ChatGPT has about 82% chance that it's going to win the argument. Again, you might ask me, what is winning an argument in Facebook? There's no, it just keeps on going, right? And those who are on the left keeps commenting on the right. Those who are on the right keeps commenting on the left. But if you're really having an argument in Facebook, let a ChatGPT or something run it, because 82% they are likely to win on the arguments. And it's again easy to guess why. The interactions we are having, which are mostly long threads, which is what Facebook also allows for the ad revenues and all that, is mostly arguments. It's not something, oh, that's a fantastic invention. Somebody invented something, claps will be just about 100. But if it's an argument, it'll go about 1,000 threads. So what is Gen AI? We just get it across. Many of you are using generative AI, but to be very clear, it is not something new. It is a subfield of AI. AI has been around from 1956 when Dartmouth University had this famous white paper come out and all that stuff. It's a subfield of AI. It's trained on massive amounts of data than what we can imagine previously. All your foundation models, which we'll see later, are trained on massive amounts of data. It's crawled all the internet. some legally, some without rights, and all that is being figured out as we move along. And it also has watched yesterday's argument is Sundar Pichai is talking about OpenAI watching all the YouTube videos. It started with cat videos and the vision algorithm, vision recognition, your object recognition algorithms were all trained on first on the cat videos in YouTube. You go to Andrew Ng's videos. That's what he talks about, how they trained on cat videos in YouTube. So it's trained on massive amounts of data. And it also generates human quality. That is what we talked about. It generates human quality text. It does translating, yes?
I'm trying to understand. You said it is reading some video. Is it reading video?
Yes, many of these models are multimodal today. So they do understand. They have been trained on video, images, code, text, everything. So the model started as, see, these are all large language models, right? The term itself, LLM, is large language models. Primarily, it came out of your NLP's offside of thing. Today, they are multimodal. Natively, these models understand. That's what the OpenAI recent example also. You have your phone on, you're having a conversation with it, it sees the real world, and then it answers you. Yes. That is why now Google is saying OpenAI is trained on their YouTube videos. Now, does Google have copyright over the YouTube videos? Do you have copyright over your YouTube videos or his YouTube videos? Is all questions we'll have to answer. It's a very interesting world. Lawyers, that's why I asked you, are there any lawyers? I'm sure this is going to go on litigations for the next 2-3 decades. Lawyers are going to make a killing. And we are working for a law firm in the US where we are developing an application they could use, kind of a in-house ChatGPT where it is proprietary deployed internally for them so that that data doesn't go out and all that. Anyways, so it generates human quality text. It is very good in translating. The recent models are actually very good in, to some extent, I won't say very good, to some extent in Indian languages, Tamil, Hindi, Gujarati, you try it, it's fairly good and it's evolving. You can say they are coming closer to what we can actually start having conversations with. And because they are multimodal and these are able to figure out associations between languages. So some of these models, what they learned in one language, they're able to translate that knowledge onto another language. So that's why these translations are much better than what we had in Google Translate or Bing Translate even a couple of years before. They're multimodal, like I said. They have been trained on text, code, images, music, videos, and they can also output in all of these formats. We'll not get into why they are all similar when it comes to a learning model, but then there are videos you can watch out. Why we might think video training is very different from textual training, but they are not. They are all of them have some commonality when you actually go into how they are trained. Lots of uses. Will not. Some of them are your client communication is one example I have found out to be extremely useful. We'll see one out. I like to show more examples. So we'll see how it is very useful in client communication. For me, generative AI, rather than as an abstract concept, after this 1 hour, I want you to take something that you can go and start using it. All of you would have used ChatGPT, but how can you use it effectively? What all use cases which you thought you wouldn't have tried earlier, one or two ideas should be key takeaways from this. So client communications is one area I found out generative AI to be super good. What do I mean in client communication? We may not be able to understand another. It's not only language. When we think about, oh, I want to write to a German client, translation comes to our mind immediately. But when we want to write to somebody, say, other than US or UK, which we understand culture to a large extent, you want to write to a customer in New Zealand, they speak English. But are you communicating it correctly to them? Do you understand the cultural context? We may not. If I ask most of you, or even if you ask me, what is New Zealand? Does it have a parliamentary system, presidential system? Do they have local bodies? I don't know. We only know about what is in the US, what is happening in California, what is happening in London. That's all we know. Even in the English-speaking world, our knowledge from a cultural, wider understanding of the society is very limited. That's where these things can actually come into. Why do I need in a client communication? Sometimes you have to give an example to a client. You have to connect with the sports that they are playing, with the movies they are watching, their cultural context and all that. It's super important. That's where these tools can make a phenomenal impact in client communication. You write an email that I read it and I immediately understand, oh, you've tried to understand my, and all of us are, most of you are founders, right? Entrepreneurs. You connect with your client. Most often your discussion is not what is happening in the boardroom. It's actually what is happening over a dinner or a drink or a lunch. That's when you're able to connect to them. That builds your relationship. For that, these tools are extremely good. Social media posts, obvious. LinkedIn has write it with AI. Facebook is going to have, it's out in the US, it's going to come. Translation, summarization. Summarization is, again, we take it, it's a cliche thing that generative AI can summarize, give a long PDF, it can summarize. But the amount of information I'm consuming today because of this is phenomenal. Those large PDF I get, I don't read it. I'll say I'll read it later, bookmark it. We never go to those bookmarks. It never happens. Only time I've cleared all my bookmarks is in the pandemic time when we didn't have anything else to do. So for that, we cannot hope we'll have another pandemic not to do anything. So summarization is super useful. So the way I start with this is, I say, can you summarize it in one paragraph? And then I say, can you summarize it in 3 paragraphs? Can you elaborate it for 5 paragraphs? So as you understand a bit, you can start understanding more. But if I give you a 2-page document at once, you can't understand it. It becomes super difficult for you to read. So you can start summarizing at different levels and all that anywhere, please. And ideation. This is one other thing. If you haven't used it for ideation, please start using it for ideation. It is super, super good. And you have to have a conversation with it. What do I mean by ideation? I'm thinking of a product which is vegetarian only courier service, delivery service like Zomato did. Is it a good idea? Am I being culturally insensitive? Somebody had asked ChatGPT to have told before Zomato had that social media fiasco where they said our delivery boys who are delivering vegetarian food will wear green shirts. Okay, you can't be more culturally insensitive than that. What about if anybody is wearing orange shirt, is he going to carry a non-veg food? It's so obvious. So those things you could have asked, you could have checked, you could have ideated with ChatGPT as your partner. If you are going to ask, what should I do? Start my next business. I'm sorry, ChatGPT is not going to give you a good answer for that. But if you start ideating with it, use it as a partner, as a sounding board, it's fantastic. We'll see more. We'll see Google Gemini, we'll see open source models, market research. It can do analytics, it can do reports. It's super helpful for students and education. I said not only students. The other day, I wanted to learn, for example, what is embedding in transformer models in AI. It's difficult to comprehend. I said, can you explain to me embedding in 5 lines for a Python college kid who knows a bit of Python? It's told. And then I said, can you elaborate it more? I know TensorFlow, I know PyTorch. Can you explain to me now? It's able to explain a little bit more. And I said, can you show an example code for me? It was able to do. So basically start, it's like how your teacher teaches you. They don't start with you don't start with max as your last problem solving. You start with the first simple examples, keep building on it. ChatGPT can do that for you. And the recent models, you can actually, you don't need to give this prompts. You can actually say, can you take me step by step, keep building the complexity, can have a conversation with you. These are ways, these are practical ways that I think generative AI can be super useful than the image generations and all the fun part that we have all been seeing in demos that the big tech wants to show you. They have to show it. They will be showing more of those demos, but at the end of the day, we have salaries to pay, we have money to earn, and this is where real usage comes in. Elements of a prompt, I'll quickly cover this. I'll be happy to explain more. Most important, we'll see examples also. The first thing in a prompt, this is the query that you give it to ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or whatever you're using, is the persona or the role playing. What is the role that you want ChatGPT to or your generative AI model to play? So you say you are a writer, you have directed, you're Hitchcock, you have directed most of the thriller movies. Can you tell me this story that I'm writing is good? That's going to give you a better result than throw the story and say, is this story good or bad? Why? It doesn't know what it is trying to do. And it also doesn't know the context. What are you trying to do? I use in my social media posts, all my communication, ChatGPT or Copilot or anything, but every day, almost many times, but I always give it a context. What am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to write a social media post. Why are you writing that social media post? Are you trying to get likes? Which probably yes, it's a stupid question, I know. But what is that you want to showcase yourself as an expert on cooking, or an expert on mining, or an expert on fashion. I want to impress my people that I know the subject that I'm talking about. I want it to be funny. I want to have a movie example. Give it more context and give who are you, or who are you? What do you want the chat GPT to pretend it to be? Role playing is a beautiful capability of these models. Let's take it to best advantage. It's very simple. Just say you're a great movie director. Now, can you help me with this? That's how you do personal. Simple tips. I'm not talking about anything complex that you can go and you're in your phone. You can try these things in your thing right now. Content. What is the content? Yes. Persona is what is the role you are, or what is the role you want the system to play, either one of them. Context is what are you trying. Context is not the task. Context is your background. We'll see examples. Just remember these. We'll see more examples. You will remember. Yes.
Your context of why the first phase prompt is required.
Prompt is how you're interfacing with computers. It's a larger thing. Human computer interface as a field, if you go and read it, all along we have been having, initially we started with commands, or probably magnetic tape, or not even tapes, these what do you call, punch cards. And then we moved on to commands. And then we moved on to graphical user interface. And that's what we are still using in applications and all that. But for the kind of, I won't say first time, but for a first time, realistically, we are able to have conversation with the system. Are these systems fully understanding? Are they reasoning? Are they truly intelligent? Are they sentient? All that is a different question. We leave all that. But you can have a conversation with them. So how do you have a conversation? You start talking to them. You start typing.
It's like, it's a way to connect with the chat Gen AI.
Yes, any system. Prompt is if you're a programmer, it's a command. If you are an end user, it's a query, it's a question. It's what you're asking the system with. So that is why it is called and the word is very carefully, whoever created this word have been very careful. They didn't call it command, they didn't call it question, they didn't call it query. They called it as a prompt. You're prompting it. That is a very subtle difference there. Because if it's a command, the system has to do exactly what you're saying. Here you're only prompting it. Like in a drama stage, if you have acted on stage, somebody behind prompts you, oh, that is the next dialogue you'll have to say. So that's how this prompting had origin there. These systems are not definitive. You run the same command 2 times, 3 times, you will get very different results. Whereas in a computer system, a command, 10,000 times you run it, it has to give the same answer. Even Google result very likely will give you same results, or not variant many times, but here they will. And there's a wonderful reason. The next question people will ask, when I say if it's based on statistics, that is why the answer comes. Yes, statistics also doesn't change, right? You do the same calculation next time, the result should be the same. But ChatGPT, you ask the question the next time, it gives you a very different result. And there are reasons on the algorithm why it is statistics, but there is also a little bit of trickery going on there. That is why these systems are very, you tend to think them to be more intelligent than the previous iterations we have got. We'll move on. And then you say the task that you wanted to do. What are the number of colors in rainbow? That is a query you want to give. Then that is a task you actually ask it to do. Lastly is the format. This is a simple output. You wanted to output as today, you can ask them to output as images, or sorry, text, tables, then images or code or videos eventually. So you can tell what is the output format you want the data to come on. So these are elements of a prompt. I'll also tell you a trick. You can even ask ChatGPT, what is the prompt I should give to accomplish this? That's also a wonderful way of doing it. Sometimes you want to construct a very large thing and you don't know how to write prompt. Tell ChatGPT. And I have found out you ask ChatGPT how to write a prompt from Gemini, and then give it to Gemini and ask Gemini to write a prompt for ChatGPT. It actually kind of works much better. You can go on loops also. It's really funny if you want to do it. So these are some good prompt or rather bad prompt examples and good prompts. We'll start also seeing some as we move on. But to just set the stage, this will give you an idea. If you're going to ask, what is this stuff about tell me some stuff about history. Okay. It's not going, it doesn't know anything. What is it going to tell? Instead, you ask it something specific. Could you provide a summary of the problem between India and Sri Lanka on the Kachati issue? It's going to give you a much better result. We are all so used to 25 years of Googling that we give it and we expect that quick. We don't even think, right? We just give a keyword and Google tells. We don't even know the URL. If I ask randomly some 5 of you, what is your company URL? You will say Google Light module. You will get my company. You may not even know whether it is .com or .in or whatever is your company. We are so used to just Googling stuff. That's not how these systems work, thankfully for Google. So then help me on homework. That's probably the most common queries. Initially gave it to ChatGPT 1.5 years back when it came. It has absolutely no clues about. Give it more context. Give it more, what are you trying to help? They're fantastic if you want to learn mathematics. So good in analyzing formulas, explaining you step by step. As a teacher, won't even do, it doesn't get tired. You can ask it to give an example in movies. How do I remember this formula it's going to give? The other day, I wanted to remember something and I said, can you do a jingle? It actually wrote a song and even set it to music and gave me as a music for something to remember. It's so good in those. It's how creatively we are able to use it. That's where the power really comes in. Tell me a book. Tell me a movie to watch. This I've often seen. I've watched a lot of movies. I write my blogs. The question I dread when people call me or my friends, hey, what is the movie I should watch this week? I can't tell. I don't know what is your interest. What is it you're feeling? I may like a very sad movie, but you may want a jolly movie with your wife. I tell you a sad movie with a lot of blood and all that. You're going to unfriend me the next day. I don't want to do that. So give it more context. Who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? And then say, I'm looking at a movie. I like this movie. Can you give me a recommendation about this movie? You don't need to do 20 IMDb searches. Just one query, you can actually get it today. Plan a thing. Okay, this is super useful. If you're able to tell, you want to get a gift for your wife or husband, tell my husband likes ties, he likes color ties, he has already had 100 ties, and these are the photographs of those ties. Can you suggest a new tie for me to buy for him? It's able to give you suggestion. It may not be valid, but 100% I'm sure it's going to make you think on something which you haven't thought through. Most often ChatGPT, if I've gone through, it has made me think. It made me think laterally. Today, I was asking a query, and it made up its own URLs. It can make up, that's what we call hallucination. Today, there is a new term for it also, instead of hallucination. So it made up URLs. Instead of my blog URL, Venkatarangan.com, it actually said Thirumal.ai. My name is Thirumalai, Thirumal.ai. I don't have a domain like that at all. But then I thought I should register a domain. Anything.ai today is fancy, right? So Thirumal.ai could be my domain. I didn't get that idea. ChatGPT gave that idea, kind of serendipitous, to me, where it actually hallucinated a URL for me. So the reason I'm going through these a bit, you need to understand the strength of these models and also the weaknesses of these models. This is a detailed prompt. Okay, you can read it. I'm a movie reviewer at this. You are an expert. I am so-and-so. Then I'm saying you are an expert copy editor for lifestyle magazines. You can name you're an expert copy editor for New York Times if you want to say. That include a movie review section. I'm writing this review for an Indian audience. I'm writing this for an Indian audience. That is again a catch. Otherwise, it's going to write an American example and all that, which anybody reading it will know you didn't write it. If I start writing in American language, immediately people will say you've had ChatGPT to do this. So I'm using Indian English. That's what I've been taught. Can you rewrite this and the same style? Please be grounded to the facts. I'll give you one example as we move. Don't ask ChatGPT to write a review for you because it's going to write a movie. For example, I didn't like Jailer. I thought it was one of the worst Rajini movies ever made. I'm a Rajini fan. But then if you ask it, it's going to say Jailer is the best movie. But for that, nobody needs to come to your blog and read it. They can go to ChatGPT themselves, ask, how is Jailer? So I write my reviews in my own. Earlier, I used to take time to write the polished. English is not of my mother tongue. So it takes Tamil, I can natively think. English, I have to do a translation and then write. I have to take time. Where now I just write points and then throw it at ChatGPT. I say, this is my review. Can you make it better? That is what this prompt actually does. And at the end of the day, it's my review. It's not ChatGPT's review. ChatGPT is only rewriting it for me. I said, rearrange the paragraphs, blah, 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 give it 3-4 titles, so on and so forth. Any questions here? We'll see the output. We'll go real outputs and see. Okay, actually, that's a good time. Let's do that. We'll start with the gold standard. I have many tools to show it to you, but let's start with the gold standard. This is ChatGPT. This is the latest model. I'm in the paid version, so I've got the GPT-4. There are also reasons why you want to use GPT-4. GPT-4 is still their larger model, bigger model, better model. GPT-4.0, which got released on this week, is actually faster. So let's start with something very simple. One of my favorite prompts to give all times is this one. How many Rajinikanth does it take to change a light bulb? So, you know, I'm an old, what is that, news group era guy. So news groups, this was the most common jokes. So any of you born after the 90s, you won't know about light bulb jokes. There used to be old news groups for light bulb jokes. So how many, just one, Rajinikanth doesn't change the light bulb, he tells it to light up and it obeys. Okay. So these are actually good. If you ask it to be, you give it more context, it actually can do a much better job. So we'll ask the same question. No, it won't. It won't. It will certainly not. None. Rajinikanth doesn't change light bulb. He makes darkness disappear. It's actually really fun. You can keep spending all your time on this. Okay. So we'll try the same thing in Google Gemini. I'll also tell you which one you should use what at the later as we move on. He doesn't change the light bulb. Light bulb changes itself out of respect for Rajinikanth. Rajinikanth stands into darkness. Darkness acknowledges its defeat and turns into light. It's really fun. Okay, so let's try some other prompts, but we'll stick to ChatGPT for now. Okay, so this is the movie review. The same thing that I've written, but I've written it a longer thing, and I've given my movie. From this section is something I've written. Okay, this whole thing, Adam Sandler may be your last choice to do a philosophical science fiction. This is the latest movie in Netflix that he acted. What is the movie name? I forgot. This is about a spider in space, a spaceman, correct. So I wrote this review and then I gave those instructions. The entire thing as a prompt, I'm copying and I'm going to be pasting it to ChatGPT. Like I said, the point to remember is I wrote the review, that section below that. Those were earlier. I'm only asking ChatGPT to modify it. It's now giving me suggestions. Spaceman, it figured out it's spaceman. It's giving me suggested titles and rewriting the old text. Okay. And if you go to my blog, very likely I wouldn't have used the same. So what I do is I ask the same query to ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Copilot, and then mix all of them to make it my review. Sorry? Oh, okay, sure. Where is this? Okay. So that's what I do. But it actually sometimes makes you think, oh, we have missed to say this point. We could have told this differently and all that. Somewhere that review will be there. Anyway. So the point to focus is on, and I gave it delimiters. If you have noticed, again, it's a small tip. I gave it 3 hash. You could do brackets. You could do quotes, anything. What is your instruction and what is the content that you are giving? These systems are becoming more smarter. But if you read it second time after 5 minutes, you are not able to understand. System is not going to be able to understand. So don't throw. It doesn't need punctuations. It doesn't need a space. But for that matter, if you make it totally unreadable, even system is not going to make any sense. So give it delimited. Brackets are good. I kind of use 3 hashes. You can use whatever you like. They are not very particular about it. This you can keep as your common prompt. They used to be called as system prompts. Now, ChatGPT doesn't prefer system prompts, or they don't give it that much weightage. So you can give it as part of your standard prompt itself. So the point to highlight is, sir. Yes. Yes. ChatGPT does go and read it. So sometimes like it's a prompt. So sometimes by choice, it will leave it. So way I do it is I give that as a first query. Say, can you go and read it and summarize? So that way it is in its memory. Then I give it.
Feel like I just give it my company's website or any website or a master website other than summarize what is the content.
Yeah, it can. There are more sophisticated ways to do that. You can write your own custom GPT for those use cases to do it better. But yes, that's the whole idea. Here there is a custom GPT called web browser, which actually does a much better job than the standard chat GPT for querying. But this is available only in the paid thing. Your Microsoft Copilot, it's kind of built in. Google Gemini also kind of have a similar feature. But don't worry about it. Whatever you're using, stick to it. So these things kind of keep evolving on a daily basis. Okay. Sorry, custom GPT? Yeah. Okay, so let's see one more example. This is another example. I'll also show you a tool where there are lots of prompts for you to get inspired on and move on, because only prompts we can keep talking for 2 hours. You are a social media reels advisor. I, as founder catalyst advisor coach, I want to do a video. Can you tell me the script for it? It's actually going to do a beautiful thing. If I go to my customer and ask them, all of us have this problem, right? We go to our customer and say, can you give me a testimony? That to a video. The customer is going to come back and say 99.99 times, can you write it and give it to me? Correct? So you can use ChatGPT, write it, and you can put all the adjectives. That is the greatest company that is on earth. They developed it for $0 for me. They gave it yesterday, even before I wanted it. All that you can give, and the customer very likely will read it and give it to you as a video. So it kind of gives you the whole storyboard. You can ask it to do a storyboard. You can also ask it to say where you need to emphasis, and teleprompter prompts. It can do all that for you. So it's on how you keep giving instructions. See, it's narrative, hook, 10 seconds, how much time you have to spend and all that. You can keep fine tuning it. You can write a script and give it to it and say, can I talk this in 1 minute? What should I cut? What should I keep? What is the target audience? I'm talking to students. Do I need to keep this joke? They are going to come back and say, no, that's not a joke that's going to cut with the students. Take it out. I wish our politicians use ChatGPT to be culturally sensitive before they talk, but probably that's the whole idea. They probably use ChatGPT to be controversial. That's also, I guess. Somebody came to me once and said, can you do a session on using ChatGPT for politicians in the election season? And I don't know where to start. Anyways. Okay, so let's see one more example. This is one of my favorite examples. Maybe take a minute to read this and just make it easier for you to read. Yeah, I'm a sales manager with a software service company in Chennai, in India. We have a team of 20 people specializing in implementing Zoho creator-based project. Recently, we had an opportunity for a grocery store in Adelaide, Australia, for creating a software. The project is expected to take 3 months. I'm going for a discussion with the customer over a video call today to negotiate the price. We want to stick to the price. Can you help me to give points to stick to the points? I want to win this deal. So this is my query. This is a very common scenario. I'm sure this is going to take about half a day of preparation for you to come up with points, but then it's only going to be your team's knowledge. With ChatGPT, with 5-6 queries like this, super easy. You'll get some, I'm not saying it's going to win the deal, but it's going to give you laterally different ideas. Again, more than the result, the process you've written this prompt is actually going to make you think. And once you get the results, then you can brainstorm with your team and say, which is the one which is kind of working. See, highlight expertise, focus on value, not price, break down the cost. The next question I'll ask, can I start with the latest Australia news or a sport to show that to the client that I'm interested in their culture, their thing? I have to do a lot of research. And that may be a sport that Australia doesn't like, but maybe in the news. So ChatGPT is going to give you a correct news. You will also see a theme here. This is for a successful salesman who knows how to do sales. ChatGPT is not teaching you how to do sales. It's helping you as a productivity tool. I can't make an engineer a sales guy tomorrow. I'm an engineer, but it took me 20 years to become a salesperson. I didn't become overnight a salesperson just because ChatGPT was available. But with this, if I know how to do sales, what is that? How do I connect with the customer? This can be a very beautiful tool for me to use. So start thinking this as a productivity tool, enhancement tool for you. Okay. So what all didn't, this is all good examples, correct? There are also things where it doesn't do correctly. This one, my interesting query is, it may or may not work, I don't know. When I was 6 years old, my sister was half my age. Now I'm 50. How old is my sister? I don't know what answer it's going to give. Sometimes it gives the wrong answer. Now your sister is 47. Is it right? Yeah, probably. You tried the second time, it's going to give you a wrong answer. GPT 3.5, I'm sure it's going to give you a wrong answer. Oh, it's not even available for me. Just. Oh, no, it's not available. It's Gemini also will get it done for me. Okay, let's try it on Gemini. So this is a reasoning question. So it's a very simple reasoning question, but sometimes some of these models don't get it right. And the famous example where things went wrong, you would have seen this photograph all over the internet. You can guess on what's wrong here. Somebody asked Google Gemini 3-4 months back when they launched it, give pictures of founding fathers of US. And it gave all the founding fathers, which all of us know they're all white men. That's how it was in 1600s and 1700s and all that. But it gave all of them as Black Americans. And it also created Black American or Black Nazis. There were no blacks in the Nazi Hitler army. So it started giving all those images. And immediately Sundar Pichai said, I'm stopping at generating images. It's still, you can generate images with Google Gemini, but it doesn't do people faces. Okay, and if you're in the paid workspace, you can generate images, but in the free products, consumer editions, it doesn't do. So this is where it got it wrong. So that is why you have to know these models are not definitive. They are I won't say they are guessing, but they are giving you what they have been trained on and what is statistically likely. Yes. Yes. They can go wrong. Yes. This is not your ERP system. This is not your banking software. So they are going to get it wrong. Yes, they do. Correct. As if you are on textual data to a large extent in the last one and a half years, I will put them to be accurate around in the 90s, 95% range, and they are becoming better and better. Google is also trying out models where they are also validating it with their corpus that they already know. People are talking about using agents as additional to these models to validate the data that is coming out is correct and all that. Absolutely. There has to be a human in the loop. There's no doubt.
ChatGPT 4 is trained till this year or last year?
Okay, it's a big topic. These models today take enormous amount of time to train, so they are not trained immediately. They will have months, if not years lag. The question is ChatGPT 4.5 Turbo. They said it's trained till April 23. The 4.0 they haven't really said till when they have trained. Google Gemini is probably last year end, but they haven't told it. And these are proprietary models, so they don't need to tell you till when they are trained. So what they do is when you ask a query which is on what is the latest news in Chennai, these models are going to do something called as RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. They're going to do a web search, pick up the data, and then summarize using their skill. So that's how they are going to work. So if you're using them as a knowledge, as a Wikipedia querying thing, they may not be accurate. They may not be latest. And there are ways in which these companies are trying to overcome that, but think of them as a language models. They are, at the end of the day, language models. Yes.
One more thing. Use it for medical advice because nowadays they are not able to trust the doctors.
Okay.
What they say. So does ChatGPT you can trust?
I will not trust it with my money, but it actually gives you good ideas. The way I will see, just like I'm a Python developer using this to augment my skills. A doctor augmenting this is going to be fantastic. Somebody who knows this domain to validate whether it is right or wrong, value added, give a proof of authenticity on top of it. It's going to be a great tool. If I'm going to see this, it's not going to be the science fiction movie or the hero action movies where we see a YouTube video and do a surgery on himself, and that too a brain surgery. That's not going to work. Those are just in fiction, and that I'll come back to you, sir. Yes. Correct. That's a very interesting question by itself. Today, most of these proprietary models, nobody told are revealed where they have been trained on. So that is why New York Times has sued OpenAI. Google probably will sue OpenAI for YouTube search. Somebody else is going to sue Google. All this is going to happen. The thing we know about ChatGPT 3.5 is that they were trained on Wikipedia. They were trained on publicly available common crawl data, your archive, common, all the common internet websites and all that, books. Those are the thing that is commonly said, but we don't know. That is why open source models are like important, which I'll try to talk about when I show those examples. Yes, sir.
I understood that someone pretty much sure that it's going to do the math wrong when you gave that age example.
Yes.
I didn't understand why you were so sure. I didn't have that mindset that it was going to be so wrong. Can you share the
Okay, if I show you older model, not GPT 4.0, it's going to get that question definitely wrong. And some of the open source models, which are 1 or 2 generations, is going to get it wrong. Because I've tried it. So there is a way to get it correctly in ChatGPT. I'm not going to go into that. If you say use calculate, where basically you're forcing ChatGPT to write a mathematic model and then evaluate it, it will give you a correct example. So this one, for you to be very sure, you can write. I haven't tried this, so it's very scary to do just a second. It's very scary to do demos which I haven't tried. Can you write a Python code to evaluate, to calculate this and then show me the answer? It's very likely, I can guarantee this will be accurate. 47, it's right. Okay, I can also force it to do sometimes. Take your time, go step by step. I can give it some more instructions like that. The goat thing, it kind of got it wrong. I don't know what it has got. Any of you read it? Did it get it right? The goat example, a man and a goat are in one side of the river. They want to cross it. They have a boat. What steps do they need to follow? Did it get it right? Man takes the goat across the river. Man leaves the goat on the other side and returns. Man crosses the river alone. I think it is wrong. Anybody thinks it's correct? Have I put you all on to sleep? Wow. I also asked Gemini, what did it say? Man takes the goat, man returns alone, man takes himself. They're all making the same mistake. Similar, man brings the goat back across the river. This is something I saw in Twitter yesterday. It's not my own creation, this question. So they do get it right. They do get it wrong. So but if you go to Twitter and search, wow, these models can do reasoning, they can do all that, it does stumble. Sometimes they do get it right. They are closer to, it's not reasoning by design, it is reasoning by accident. That's how they work. Yes, you had a question.
I read this doesn't get mathematical right. I'm not trying to, I'm not getting what do you think? How you're so sure that it is going to get the.
We'll take it offline. Sometimes you can also ask it to do a graph and then figure out the answer. It will do a matplot thing, which is really complex Python code, and then it will do it. It's really fun when you go into that rabbit hole. Yes, sir. Can it be trained by, that is what people are talking, right? System will be so sure that it will kind of create itself more. That's the holy grail. I'm sure probably not in the next 10, 20 years. I'm risking.
For example, from learning how to develop artificial codes, trying to learn codes, the code which is shown, which is going to differ from the next 5 years or how?
Yeah. Next time you ask it, the code is going to be very different. So it is going to be different. These systems are evolving. Like the gentleman asked, when was this models trained on? Like last year, when they are trained today, there will be more knowledge. Some of the code that these models generate, when you run it, you'll have errors, because when it got trained last year, those frameworks of Python library or JavaScript library were in a different version. Today, the versions have changed. But if you give that error to them, they are smart enough to tell you that, oh, this is the change you have to do and all that. Give the errors. They are so good. I'll give you an example. If you give a code and ask it to explain, it's godsend. If you're a programmer, this is the best thing that has happened. You don't want to write code. You wanted to read code. Anybody who has maintained a code here, 1 year back, the code that you wrote, or a developer left it and he or she has left a code base, the new developer will come. Sir, I'll not touch that code. It's too difficult to write. And they will start writing from scratch. The idea, what they will claim is they will say, I'll write better code. No, they are doing new mistake. They won't do the same mistake. They'll do new mistakes. So you spend 1 crore writing the first version of the application, you will end up spending 10 crores in version 2. That's where these tools are super useful. Today, I gave this an example. I gave a large code for this assistant thing. Forget about the code. Don't focus. It's a really, really large code. So I went to GitHub. There's better ways of doing this. I'm just showing it for example. Can you read and understand this code in Python? So I gave a very, very large library. It would have taken me 2-3 hours to understand what it was, if not more. And finally, wherever, it's still scrolling, it's some 2,000-3,000 lines of code, if not more. Yeah, so it kind of said, the provided module defines assistant, and it said, this is super useful. Anybody who has programmed or read somebody else's code, this is the best thing that these models can actually do. And I asked it further questions. When I use this code to create a new assistant with the code as below, that's a module I'm going to consume. I'm writing a code. I'm asking a question. The code that I'm writing, how is it going to interface with the module that I've given it to you? Cross-referencing. It actually does a fantastic job and explains. And I said, can you plot a graph for me to understand the flow? See, this is going to be super useful for you to learn what it is happening. And then I said, can you also add the actors? It missed the actors. It first gave me this. Then I said, include the actors. It will include the actors somewhere here. Actors, I mean assistant, RAG code, LLM, which is the actor acting on the, doing the action. Again, don't focus on, you can try it out, any code, you can give it and you would. It's the power that I want you to show that these modules are better with.
Most of us here are startups. We wanted to generate promotional videos because we don't have time to go to export.
You'll have to talk. You can use these modules, give it as much input to create the text, you talk. Okay, there's some, maybe next year, these models will also do from a clip of yours generated, but that I'm sure will be not authentic. They don't do videos, they do only images. Correct. Okay, so we'll see some more slides and then we'll move on. If you're okay, I planned for an hour, but we have up to 7 o'clock, so we'll go. We are taking questions as we move along. These are some tips that you can actually use for prompt. We'll see the open source models and I'll show you Copilot as we move on. Some of the tips when you write prompt, say a command like take your time to do it. One of the things that these models are proven to be useful, when you say please, when you say thanks, these models do a better job. Any guesses why? They're not human. We don't need to what is it? I don't get the name. No, anthropomorph something. Basically, we humanize them. That is the whole thing. So, but no, when you say please or thanks to these models, the output tends to be better. Any reason why? They're trained like that, okay. It's not like I have to be nice to this model. They are computers. They are trained on emotional intelligence. Okay, any other guess? It motivates. Yeah, that's a good one. I wish they are. What will motivate them today is, okay, I'll buy $100 more of compute power. So they'll be super happy. Okay, no, it's kind of combination of all what you said. These models in the corpus of data that they were trained on, good quality content have been written by people who are generally nice. I write a blog, I try to be nice. Okay, people who are better authors try to be nice. When you go and read from Facebook, it's all going to be not so good words. So the corpus, when you say it's the cloud, it's what you call nearest neighbor and all that. It picks up from those good corpus data when you say please and thanks. It's again a prompt. It's not a sure shot way. And as these models are evolving, they may also change. And it's also, you can say step by step. When you give it step by step, they try to do a better job. The reason is most of these models have been trained on textbooks. And in textbooks, when we learn maths, we always say, do it step by step. And you can also tell this model, take your time to do it. Again, it doesn't take, this compute takes more or less the same time. But when you give those prompts, it's kind of an indicator to them that they can do a better job. Experiment on the order you give instructions. Like in this movie example that I showed you earlier, or in this Zogo email itself, you can actually, or the movie review. I said, do this, do this, do that. You can change the order and then experiment. Instead of saying rewrite first, say rewrite at the end. Consolidate, rewrite. Change, do it. Rewrite and then consolidate. You can try those combinations. Reordering the instructions kind of makes some change. Fact check. You can also ask these models to fact check. They are gaining that capability like your questions, but they are not foolproof. Nobody is guaranteeing they'll do it for sure. But what I try to do in my system prompts is, can you give the source for this, whatever you are quoting? Can you give it source? Can you give it URLs? And most of the time, the URLs, like I said, Thirumalai.ai, which didn't exist, you will know that then it's making up. It will confidently give you wrong answers. They are super good in that. Break the task into smaller steps. Don't give too large an instruction. You want to summarize and translate, say summarize, let it show the answer, then say translate. Then kind of, these models, you have to do one more thing to remember is, do iterations, do conversations with them. Again, like I said, it's not a Google search, you get the result in one go. Typically, I found out 6th or the 7th iteration, I get kind of, even in my movie reviews, I keep giving it comments. Oh, you got this wrong. It will suddenly say, I wouldn't have told Adam Sandler did a good job. It will say he did a fantastic job. It will go wrongly somewhere. Then I'll have to say, you got it wrong, can you rewrite it? And it will use terms which I don't understand, so I'll ask it. So those kind of iterations I'll do. Let's see some more example. I'll see if I can, yeah, this is an interaction I have had in Tamil. I'm asking the model, form over function, how to say it in Tamil. Rather than reading, it gave me a result. அழகிற்கு மேலாக செயல்திறன். The query I'm giving is தமிழ் வழக்கில் இதை சொல்லவும். தமிழ் வழக்கில் என்பதனை செயல்பாட்டிற்கு பின் தோற்றம் என்று சொல்லலாம். Then I keep giving it instructions. Can you give it shorter? Finally, it said செயலுக்கு முந்தி தோற்றம். So if you see, it's about 5-6 iterations I've gone with it. It's not the first one. Form over function, give it to me in Tamil. I didn't get it right. Correct. No, this is what I wanted to communicate. So form over function is what I wanted to, right? You're absolutely right. So I keep working on it. The example I'm showing is, I say, can you say it in now Tamil Vazhakkil Sollavam? Keep having a conversation with it. Okay, so before we move on to the open source models and a few other examples, references. If you want to learn more on prompt, this is a fantastic site, promptingguide.ai. Go take a look at it. You can spend your time, keep learning on many of these tricks that I've been sharing. It's available there in one single place. And also search for prompt engineering guide. OpenAI has a complete guide. Google has one. Microsoft learn.microsoft.com has courses that if you have your people, and you might think developers don't need to learn prompt. When you're working with these models at the API, you're using for RAG or writing assistants or agents, prompt is most of the time what is the code your developers will be writing on. So they need to be prompt engineers. So they have to learn. For them, I will recommend they take the Microsoft course at learn.microsoft.com on prompting. Should take them about a couple of hours, not more than that. There are videos, guides, everything available. It's for free. So Google also has a similar prompting guide available. OpenAI has one. So whichever is your suite, I wanted to say poison, but whichever suite you want, you can pick. So we'll move on. These are some of the models. I've shown you two of them already, ChatGPT and Google Gemini. There is also Anthropic Claude that's available, which is again a paid model. Microsoft Copilot and Azure AI, these are instances they are deployed of the OpenAI model. There is differences between. Okay, fine. Right. Okay, you can try that also. All these models, all these are foundation models, proprietary models. The reason they are proprietary is we don't know what they are trained on. We don't know the weights that have been assigned on, so they are completely proprietary. and you have to, one way or other, you have to pay them. The difference why I want to put Microsoft Copilot and Azure AI GCP is when you deploy these models on the GCP cloud in Google or in Azure, those whatever data that you are using is not, at least these companies guarantee they don't use it for their back training. But if you're using the consumer editions, the data that you are putting in may be used for training. If you're these whatever in ChatGPT about movies, I should have used it for last many months. I would have written about 200 movie reviews, whatever. So ChatGPT knows about all these movie reviews and the interactions I've made with it. They can, as per like terms and service agreement, they can retrain on this model with the data that I've given. But if I use, even if they're paid version, these are again a consumer edition, they can still use it. Only their API editions through programmatic, OpenAI doesn't use it, or at least tell that they don't use it for their retraining purposes. Microsoft, their consumer edition, if you call Copilot generally or Bing, the same thing. Only if you have a Microsoft 365 account, then what you get is a thing they don't use it for. That training, it's very easy to find out. If you're using Copilot, if you see this protected button on the top, that means they are not using your data that you are giving for retraining their models. Again, YouTube videos, Google can use it for training. Are they going to use it? Are they going to publish it? May not be. If you're super worried or super sensitive about the data, otherwise you're just using for a blog writing and copywriting, social media posts, I suppose you don't need to worry at all. But the caveat is only if you're having in their Microsoft 365 account, even if you're paid, Copilot paid is also, they'll train if it's a consumer account. Only if you're on a Microsoft 365 business account or a Google Workspace paid account, they don't use your data for training. You will see this button called protected in the Microsoft example. But they are using OpenAI at the backend. There is also another way, if you want to be sure, you can also use, this is Azure AI, Azure OpenAI, where they have, in this, my instance, I have deployed a GPT-4. It's my deployment of GPT-4 internally. So whatever I'm doing, it's running in my cloud instance, kind of cloud account rather simply. So it's not going to go leak. So if you're using it for any corporate purpose, if you have an Azure account, you don't mind paying those few cents. This is also an approach. You can give your commands here and try. It works the same way. It doesn't have the bells and whistles of ChatGPT. It doesn't web search and all that, but it works. There's also an interesting reason why you may want to use this. This Dolly model here has lesser guardrails than what you get on ChatGPT. ChatGPT, we can ask it to generate an image. Generate an image of a boy and girl walking in evening sun. This is going to generate, but if I'm going to put, say, Mahatma Gandhi on a spacecraft, it's going to say, I can't do. Copilot, you go and ask it, it's going to say, oh, you have violated my rules. Or Gemini today is actually very interesting. You go and ask, oh, Mahatma Gandhi died in 1948. You can't be asking him to generate an image today. It's against our ethical code and all that they will start saying. Because you can imagine they got the founding fathers wrong. So they are now super careful. And they're going to put more and more of those guardrails. You don't want those guardrails. Not everything, you have to use an open source model. But if you're using on their cloud instance, your own instance, then the guardrails are not there as badly as it is. So if you want to generate them, you might want to use this from their cloud accounts. Okay. So that's with the proprietary models. This is where it's actually getting interesting nowadays with these open source models. There are 5 of them. There are many. But I'll show you a very simple tool that you can use to run these models in your own machine. If you have a capable machine, you don't need to pay for it. There's also a video in my site where I have demoed some of them. Facebook's Meta Llama 3 is one of the best models out there, which is an open source model. There's a 7B model, which can run in most of our machines. If you have an NVIDIA card or a latest Apple M2, M3 machines, you can run them. Google Gemma model, Microsoft 5.3 model, Mistral AI, Falcon 2, it's a UAE is actually leading in some of the non-English languages. This Falcon AI model is good. Microsoft has invested big time on Falcon AI out of UAE. So it's not only US companies, and there is a France company, there is a UAE company out there. Of course, there are Indian models, but none of them are yet ready, mature level. But these are, you can use all these models today. You can run them on your own machine. So we'll try that. So I'm going to be using a very interesting tool. Sorry.
Because all of them have access to similar set of data.
Correct.
More and more, the sort of processing.
Correct.
Also is going to become
True. Many of the models, other than these 5 ones I said, there are countless number of models available. You go to Hugging Face or you go to GitHub, there are there, but most of them are derivatives of Llama 3. Llama 2 or Llama 3 is the base model and they are fine tuning them. So that is what, like you said, is going to happen. But I see generally these models are going to diverge a lot. Each of them are going to be having a specialty of their own. Correct. They will, the foundation capability they will share, but on top of it, they will have additional personalities, additional behavior, language, I think cultural sensitivity, all that, each of them are going to take a big, even in Tamil, Sri Lankan Tamil will be different. Not only dialect, the cultural sensitivity, a Muslim Tamil is going to be different from a Brahmin Tamil over a Nadar Tamil and all that. All those combinations are going to be, some of the models are going to start specializing on those. I'm just giving a very random example. So some models are going to be super good for industrial users and all that. So you'll see them. But these open source models are.
Any of these models perform a real function rather than giving a summarized text or something? I mean,
they can call agents today. There are a lot of frameworks available for you, like Phi data, so on and so forth, where you can use them to connect to your corporate data and do extensions of them. That's the next. First, it was those models fine tuning. Last 2-3 months, everybody is talking about agents. That is a new trend. Okay, so I'm going to be running this tool called Misty, MSTY. If you want to run these models locally in your machine, you don't want to pay Google or anybody. These models are, of course, the ChatGPT-4 is supposed to be a trillion parameter model, whereas this Llama 3B is an 8 billion model. 8 billion versus a trillion. So you can see the difference. They also have a 60 or 70 billion model, but you can't run it. I can't run it in my laptop. You need like 670 GB memory in your GPU card and all that, which is not going to be available. But the 8B model is what I'm running. This is running locally in my machine. So there is a service called OLlama, which is what is actually running here in the backend. So I'm running all these models locally here. That's where all my model files are available for you to. This is where my models are there, etc. Let's skip it. Let's just go and run them. Okay, and what do you want? What are the colors in rainbow? And associate each with a fruit. Don't ask me. One of the difficult thing about demoing this is coming up with prompts, interesting prompts. So this I'm running in locally in my machine. No data is going out to the internet. And what I'm using is this tool called MSTY Misty. It's written by an Indian, if I remember, his name is Ashok. He's in Silicon Valley. He's quite active in Discord. I've been having interactions with him. It's a free tool you can install on your Mac or Windows. It comes pre-bundled with a UI, with the backend model, everything. So you don't need any programming. OLlama, you need to know a few commands to do directly, and then you have to do a Docker implementation and run that. So also I'm running here, but this is the same model running locally using a different tool. But for this one, you need to know Docker, you need to do commands and all that. But if you don't want to do any of that, just run Misty, just run it, and you get the models, you get the UI, everything bundled, you get the results here. This is completely running in your own machine. The beauty about this model is you can run split. One left, you can have Llama 3, right, you can do Google's Gemma model, and then do the query. It's going to run in both the models. You can also add one more split. I don't have screen space. And it's going to use Microsoft Phi. So 3 models are going to run. Probably my laptop is going to crash now. It's a risky thing I've done. So if it crashes, then the next 2-3 minutes. Oh, this is, I think, Zoom's thing, right? How do I get it off? Any Zoom expert here? No, I'm doing that painting. I enabled that somehow. Yes. Oops, I'm making it worse. Okay, bear with me. So I've run 2-3 models simultaneously, so that's why it's taking time. But these are running locally, so you can have these 2-3 outputs simultaneously and compare them. I found out Microsoft 5.3 to be good for text rewriting. You want to do simple blog rewriting, like the movie example that I've given. Rather than doing ChatGPT and paying, I can use 5.3, running it locally, and it's going to give you. Sorry? Tool, msty.app, misty.app. It's a free tool you can download and install. You just need to have a GPU, at least 4 GB, 8 GB RAM, or M2, M3 processor if you're on a Mac. There are multiple tools, but this is the easiest one I have found out. So the other advantage is it also allows you to run Google Gemini Pro. If you have a Google Gemini account or a OpenAI API account, you can give that also. So you can do an open source, you can do a paid thing. It also has other advantages. One other reason you may want to use this tool is it's called this prompt guide. If you want to learn prompting, then this has got prompt guide, about 1,000, 2,000 prompts available here on various examples. One of my favorite is it tries to simulate an Excel through prompts. You want to go and read this. It's quite a good exercise. It simulates, draw rows and columns and create formulas and all that. It kind of works. It's quite fun. So you should try. There are multiple such prompts. You can keep learning them. And as I said, if you don't know to write prompt, ask ChatGPT how to write a prompt, and then go and use this to do this. There is the reasons for, it's not about price alone. The price should not be the only reason you use an open source model. That's the reason why you want to do an open source model is these are faster. They run locally. They're not going to go to the internet. There are use cases where you want to process the data locally. You want to summarize some data. You don't want to push all the data to the cloud and get it back. You want to locally process, get the results, and then only push it. Like you're in an IoT scenario. You don't want to push all your IoT data to find out anomaly to the cloud and then figure out your fridge door is open. Where you can do a local model and figure out, oh, there is a problem, and you can fix them immediately. So that's one of the reasons why you may want to use a local open source model. But beware when you're deploying this. For example, there are customers who deployed open source models in their organization without understanding the privacy implications. When you're using ChatGPT or Copilot or Google Gemini, they're partitioning the data based on the permissions that you've got, etc. Whereas you're deploying Olama or Misty kind of thing on your local machine, and let all your users query the same model, and you're retraining the model, you're going to have a problem because the query that your CEO give is going to be used to retrain. And when some employee, that one of the examples in an organization, their HR ran through all their paychecks and all their offer letters, and they fine-tune the model based on it. The next day the people figured out, and this is so easy. When somebody finds out, oh, what is the pay scale for CEO? It's going to reply because it has seen the data. You can't find the model to be at fault here. You can't find Llama 3 to be at fault here. You didn't understand how content data partitioning works. So beware of it just because it is free. It's not that you can't deploy Llama 3, you'll have to understand how to deploy it.
Which one does predictive analytics?
Most of today, out of the three, Google Gemini is quite good about analytics. ChatGPT 4 is good. The open source models are not yet there. Okay, the other question is, I do get from people is, I'm already on Microsoft 365. Should I go to Gemini? Gemini is super good. Should I do OpenAI? Please don't. Stick to, if your company is already in Microsoft 365, please subscribe Copilot. If you're already in Google Workspace, please subscribe to Gemini. If your company is not in anything, you may want to do OpenAI today doesn't have an enterprise edition, which doesn't integrate very well today. So if you're a large enterprise, then your choice is either only Microsoft or Google. I'm sure Zogos of the world and others will be coming in the times to come. Today, these are the only two choices. Of course, Salesforce has one, which I haven't personally tried. But stick to those so that your data, you already have your permissions, privacy, everything controlled. So that also flows through your LLM models also if you're using these the same provider.
Basic suggestion for using Amazon Cloud.
Amazon has many of these. Amazon already tied up with Anthropic Cloud, I think, and they also have Llama and others. I don't think so they have a tie up with OpenAI. They are, out of the three today, they are not in the top thing. You may then want to use OpenAI through API. but that becomes on your responsibility.
So can it be that if somebody is wanted to shift to cloud, it's better to go to Microsoft rather than to Amazon?
Nothing like that.
Because
These are
it's
fast
all-
evolving. I'm sure it's a matter of months. Amazon will have something as good as this. Shouldn't be a reason for you to move your cloud, which is a larger workload that you are doing. Though being very familiar with Microsoft, I will love to say Microsoft has the answer, but in truth, you can stick to all these are equally good. There are many other advantages you may have in Amazon, which you may not have in Microsoft for various other reasons. So lastly, there are out there, one of the biggest time saving for this 1.5 hours you spent here, I will say this, if this is one tip you can take, there are numerous AI tools, any website with .ai, be skeptical. I don't normally go to them. Okay, because they are just waste of time, because every day there is a new tool. Okay, $20 to do image generation, $20 to do video, and you will end up paying $2,000 for something where you could have hired somebody. There are enough and more AI tools today out there. I will spend my time only on these bigger company tools or on the open source models, because they are going to be out there. The time that I spend learning them will be useful. I don't know, I start using photogen.ai. I don't know whether they will be there for 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line. So that's my personal preference. So say no to most of the clutter out there. And even in ChatGPT, the custom GPT, there are thousands and thousands of custom GPTs available for you. What do I mean by custom GPT? If I'm in the paid version, I go explore GPT. This is the catalog I get. There are enough and more. There is a data analytics thing there. This is one of my favorites I had once, video summarizer. You can give it a YouTube URL. You don't need to watch it. You use this custom GPT, give a YouTube URL. It's going to summarize the video and then tell you the thing. It's so useful. It's available for you. But there are so many other tools out there which says they will do the same. I don't know how good they are. So don't waste your time in those tools. Lastly, 2 examples, then we can take more questions and then wrap up. These tools can also generate music using the custom GPT. You can generate music. Or if you're on the Microsoft Copilot free, you can go and enable this thing called Suno, and you can ask it to generate a jingle. This is the example I said. Can you generate a 10-second jingle to celebrate me winning a 30% return? And it actually generated quite a good song. And generate code. It's one of the fantastic things you can do. Let's see. We saw Python. We'll see one more example of generating code. Okay, that's a good question. Just pass it. I'm asking it to generate an HTML code with JavaScript to do 2 text boxes and put numbers it'll add and tell. I'm asking it to write a JavaScript on HTML. It's going to do that for me. You copy paste this, it will run beautifully. Okay, I can also do the same thing. Same query, I can use Microsoft GitHub Copilot. Okay, I can say, ask GitHub. If you have GitHub Copilot subscription, this is available for you. Same thing in the code editor, I can give it the command. And it's going to generate the code right here in Visual Studio for me. So multiple ways of doing the same thing, but at the back end is the same OpenAI model that is kind of working. Another tip is these models are very good for writing comments and understanding comments. We already saw they are very good in documenting and understanding. So use these for writing comments. It's super, super useful. So this code will run for sure. So let's not spend time. Let me show you 2 examples before we wrap up. If you all okay to stay with me, I'll show you Microsoft Copilot in Word. Similar thing is available from Google. So whatever I say in Microsoft available, more or less available in Google landscape also. I'm going to be opening this document. It's a marriage schedule. Okay, what day, what happens, etc. I'm going to ask Microsoft Copilot here. The same model that we saw through prompts is the same thing that's working in the backend. There's nothing magic here. It's just that the interface, they've brought it all together. So I'm going to say, summarize this document. It's going to summarize this for me. And you can also ask it to summarize sections of the document with this button here, which is also good. You can ask it to rephrase a section alone in a Word document becomes very useful when you are actually reading long form documents. Yeah, it kind of said it's a wedding schedule. Those two are the bride and bridegroom schedule and all that. It's able to say that. Now I do want to make a presentation out of this document. I want to show it on the big screen. What is the schedule? So I'll call PowerPoint. You have time, right? Okay. So create a presentation from file. I'm going to choose the same thing. This is actually fun because every time I run this, the images that it chooses and the PowerPoint it generates is very different. Let's see what it gets now. It's a Tamil wedding. You obviously have seen the thing. So let's see what it is able to get now. One time it really got good examples of Tamil wedding garlands, temple, and Tamil looking faces. Everything it kind of got it really beautifully. Sometimes it just went to a Christian church wedding in Europe somewhere and all that. So it's each time it's actually fun to keep running the same demo. It kind of summarizes, if you see on the right hand side, it says the schedule, gets it correctly. Let's see what it does. Okay, Monday, okay. It's somewhere, it's probably what? Thai, Vietnam, I don't know. Food is also North Indian food. Yeah, I got it completely wrong this time. Let's see if I have the.
You can mention your prompt, right?
Yeah, I can definitely. The fun is on the what it gets. Let's see if I have the demo that it actually generated earlier for me. So that's the Word Excel, PowerPoint example. Similar one I can do with Excel also. Yeah, see here, it actually got things better. This one was, it get the same image. One more instance I did, it actually gave me a very interesting result. Let's try lastly, Excel example. I've imported a CSV data about school attendance. It's from your Kaggle database. It should be a table in Excel only, then it will work. So I'll call Copilot. So about 1,000 records. I've got school attendance each day, etc. I'm going to say, give me the number of schools here. If you notice, I'm not saying school DPN. That is the column name. If you are using analyzed data, you should be actually using the column name, the pivot table or whatever you are normally using in Excel. You have to be exact. You can't say school, it won't figure out. Here it will. That is the advantage of having the large language model powered here. Discounting and telling me there are 6 distinct schools. I can go ask more queries. Which school has the best attendance consistently? So this is data analysis at its very simple form. This is also evolving. Today, I won't say this is, it's another couple of months away from maturity, but it's showing good promise. It's saying those are the 2 schools. Average M020 has the best advantage. I can ask it more anomaly data and all that. How to write these prompts. Microsoft also has this category, create, understand, edit. You can ask it to do, go ask. Ask will give you more answers. It will give you a whole set of prompts that you can actually ask these systems. Today, they are limited. If you're asking a very general question, these Excel, Word, PowerPoint models struggle, but eventually they will get it right. Okay. So lastly, this is the last thing I want to cover. Copyright, we have seen all this, what these models can do. But the biggest question is, what is about the copyright? There are 3 things that you have to consider. If you are looking at deploying these models or using it on a day-to-day basis on a business, these are 3 things you have to remember. Number 1, what about the copyright of the data that these models are trained on? Somebody will come to you, New York Times comes, or the Hindu comes and says, you are outputting data that is being trained on my data, the model has been trained. Hindu comes and sues you, Times of India comes and sues you, what's going to happen? So that's something you have to think about. Most of these commercial models, OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, indemnify you from those happening today, but only if you're on their paid customer, on their commercial account. If you're using ChatGPT free, Copilot free or Copilot consumer paid also doesn't indemnify you. Only Microsoft 365 Copilot accounts or Google Gemini Workspace account indemnifies you, or OpenAI API calls that you are making indemnifies you. Free versions don't. You're using Llama 3 model with Misty. Facebook is not going to indemnify you. Remember that. That's number one. Transparency, licensing, you don't know the quality of content that is there. So if you're setting it automated, nobody is reading the social media posts that these are outputting, and it's on your Twitter. And something, when these models can hallucinate, they can misunderstand a term which can have very different Indian context. So you will have problems. So always have a human in the loop. Creation of content, all these, again, these companies give you right to use the output. What about the output? I create a beautiful software from Copilot. Will Microsoft claim copyright over it? I make $1 billion from that software I've written. That's a question. Today, these companies say you have a right to use, but they are not saying whether they will also use it. That's not yet clear. But they are saying you have copyright permission to use this output the way you want it. But again, for you to go claim against them, you have to be on their paid version, on their commercial versions. Please read their terms and conditions very, very carefully. In India, we may not care so much about legality, but if you are sending your software or using this output abroad, especially in a litigation-prone market like the US, please read these terms very, very carefully. Maybe even ask ChatGPT about pros and cons. It's better than you not researching. Ethical usage, guardrails we talked about. What is the guardrail? Like Mahatma Gandhi, I thought was a very, very fair usage that I can do, but these models won't allow you to do because of the guardrails. Lastly, indemnification and the output. We covered about it, but be super careful. Do your vendor. If you are working a large company, having a conversation with Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, Amazon, ask them about indemnification, copyright. Do you have absolute rights over what these models give you? Have those conversations. This is a famous quote from Doug Engelbart, who invented the mouse, that any technology should actually complement us, not replace us. So I like to leave you with that thought that AI model is not out there to replace us. It's there to complement our skills. So let's think with that. And that's my last slide. And that's the Mahatma Gandhi reference I keep coming to. Seeing that old man in a spacecraft suit and a Star Trek is something, it just feels good. And the left prompt is Andal singing in Sriperambudur, Srivilliputturu. Whether it is Andal, I don't know. And that's my blog URL. You can do a photograph. That's the QR code. So maybe a few minutes we can take questions. We are exactly at 7. Yes, sir.
Question one is, for example, if I go to ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
and ask like who are like for example, see we are developing an audit platform. Okay. So when I ask ChatGPT, I mean, who are the digital audit platforms? What are the digital audit platforms today? It lists out a few. So we are new. Our platform is not listed there. How do we add it? Is there any way we can add next time somebody says?
They are not giving you mechanisms to add. But what I will do is I will ensure your data is available in Google search and Bing search. Okay. So these models are referencing those searches for augmenting data. Okay. I'll also try to put it in common platforms like Wikipedia, Internet Archives. There's no direct way today.
Okay. The second question is, supposing, we have large private data. Like for example, you take employee data. Like we have, hundreds of employee data. Supposing we want to analyze that and give recommendations to employees, personalized recommendations. Can we use this to upload the data?
But you have to do it the programmatic way so that you get the privacy, the security compartmentalization I was talking about. Right. For you to get it, use their API versions. Don't use the ChatGPT commercial edition, consumer edition for doing all this. That's not the right way to do it. You can't also do it.
So commercial version, the data is protected.
Through programmatically through API.
Okay. The data is also protected if I go.
If you're on those commercial, you read the terms. You can also do Llama 3 if your requirement is very simple. Open source model will be enough. But for each customer, what I will do is I'll create a new container, deploy Llama 3 model, do the query, destroy it. I won't use that same container for the next customer. So the data leakage doesn't happen. Okay. Today with containers, you can do that. Very simple with Amazon or Microsoft. Create a container on the fly, deploy Llama 3, do the query, give it back, done. Thank you. That will be a cost-effective way for you in the longer run. Yes, any other questions?
Yeah. What are all the job opportunities for a non-programmer in Bombay?
For you to become a programmer, you can become a programmer. Yesterday, I was talking to some gentleman, and he's working in one of the large IT service firm. He's probably a project manager with many years of experience. He says the time it takes for me to get a YAML file written to deploy something in Azure is 2 days for my developer to revert. Now I'm asking ChatGPT, getting the YAML file, I'm deploying it. So the deployment becomes 5-minute job for me. He says, I haven't coded Venkat in 20 years. And ChatGPT is outputting the code and I'm able to get the job done. So that's one opportunity, definitely. Anything else is productivity. What you can't do, what is bad. I'm very bad in creativity, to drawing and all that. I can use ChatGPT. I'm very bad in creating music. I can use ChatGPT. Those are all the, use it as productivity improvement. Can I do 10x? I was having a podcast with a sales expert. He was talking about how he's able to use ChatGPT for 10x productivity in a sales lead generation. Those are all opportunities. Yes. Any other questions?
Can it write a custom app
Yes,
end to end
it can. It can. You have to give it prompts and it can.
using the API?
No, even the consumer edition you can do. You break it down into sections, it will be able to. It can also tell you the sections and then you can feed it. Okay. So thank you all. And I'll be around. Any more questions, we can take it offline. I think we can close. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the session, sir. I hope everyone would have enjoyed it. And a small request is like we have given a QR code. I request everyone to scan the QR code and provide your valuable feedback. And on 24th of May, we are having a networking event, which is exclusively for TiE Chennai members. And I request everyone to register and attend the session. So thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the session.